Every year, over 500,000 new businesses are born in the United States alone. By year 5, nearly half of them are gone. By year 10, two-thirds have shut their doors. But the ones that survive, they didn't just get lucky. The first and most dangerous myth in startup culture is this: that success begins with a great idea. If you asked most people what separates winners from losers, they'd say it was the idea, the insight, the eureka moment in the shower, and they'd be wrong. In 2010, a 22-year-old named Kevin Systrom launched a location-based app called Bourbon. It was complicated. It had too many features. Users were confused. Nobody really used it. By most metrics, it was failing. But inside Bourbon, buried in the data, something remarkable was happening. Users were using one tiny feature obsessively, a way to add photo filters and share pictures. So Kevin and his co-founders stripped everything else away. They rebuilt the app around that one behavior. They renamed it Instagram. Facebook bought Instagram 2 years later for $1 billion. The great idea wasn't there at the start. It was discovered by paying obsessive attention to what real people actually did. The founders who build enduring companies don't start with a perfect idea. They start with a hypothesis, and they relentlessly test it until the real idea reveals itself. Here's the statistic that changed how I think about startups. 42% of failed startups list no market need as their primary cause of death. Not bad marketing, not the wrong team, not bad luck, no market need. Think about what that means. Nearly half of all startup failures are the result of solving a problem that nobody actually has, or that nobody cares enough about to pay for. Steve Blank, one of Silicon Valley's most respected entrepreneurship teachers, has a famous rule: get out of the building. The biggest mistake founders make, he says, is spending 12 months building something in isolation before showing it to a single customer. The market is not a polite audience that will reward your effort. It is completely indifferent. It does not care how hard you worked, how much you invested, or how elegant your solution is. The only thing that matters to the market is whether your product solves a real pain badly enough that someone will give you money for it. This is why the most successful startup founders in history all share one habit. They are obsessive listeners. They interview customers before they write a single line of code. They test before they build. They let reality shape their vision, not the other way around. In 2021, global venture capital investment hit a historic high. More than $620 billion poured into startups worldwide. For the founders who raised money that year, it felt like winning. By 2023, the crash had arrived. Dozens of startups that had raised tens of millions, that had been celebrated on magazine covers and valuation leaderboards, were dead. Layoffs, shutdowns, post-mortems. Here's the brutal truth that the funding culture obscures. Raising money is not the same as building a business. Money is fuel. And like fuel, what matters is not how much you have. It's how efficiently you burn it on the things that actually matter. Paul Graham, co-founder of Y Combinator, coined a phrase that every founder should tattoo on their wrist: default alive. It means this: if you stopped growing today, if you kept your expenses flat, would your current revenue eventually cover your costs? If the answer is yes, you're alive. You can breathe. You have time. If the answer is no, you are on a slow death march that most founders don't recognize until it's too late. The companies that survive don't just raise money. Let me tell you about Fab.com. In 2011, it was one of the hottest startups in America. Design marketplace, curated goods, $1 billion valuation in 3 years. It was growing so fast that Jason Goldberg, the CEO, was compared to Steve Jobs in the press. By 2015, Fab was gone. Not because the market turned. Not because they ran out of money. Fab collapsed because of a co-founder conflict so deep and so public that the company simply could not function. Research on startup failure consistently identifies co-founder conflict as one of the top 3 causes of early-stage company death. And it almost always traces back to the beginning, when the relationship was formed in excitement, before anyone had mapped out roles, ownership, decision-making authority, or what happens when one partner wants to sell and the other doesn't. Sam Altman, who ran Y Combinator before becoming CEO of OpenAI, says it simply: choosing your co-founder is the most important decision you'll make as a founder. The best founding teams share 3 traits: complementary skills, clear role separation, and most importantly, deeply aligned values about why they're doing this and what winning looks like. In 2004, Stuart Butterfield launched a multiplayer game called Game Never Ending. It failed, but his team had built a photo sharing tool for themselves while making it. That tool became Flickr. 2 years later, Butterfield tried again, a second game called Glitch. It also failed. But again, his team had built an internal communication platform. That platform was Slack, worth $27 billion. The business world loves to romanticize the pivot. Fail fast and pivot has become the mantra of an entire generation of founders. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most pivots don't work, not because pivoting is wrong, but because most founders pivot for the wrong reason. They pivot because growth is slow, because investors are impatient, because they're bored. They pivot away from evidence instead of toward it. The pivots that work, the Instagram pivot, the Slack pivot, the YouTube pivot from dating app to video platform, they all share one thing. They were driven by evidence of real user behavior, not frustration, not pressure, evidence. The discipline to distinguish between a bad month and a broken model is one of the rarest skills in business. There's a pattern that shows up again and again when you study the histories of great companies. Amazon lost money for its first 7 years. Tesla was declared dead a dozen times before the Model 3 put it on solid ground. Netflix pivoted from DVD mail service to streaming to original content, a transformation that took 15 years. The founders who built these companies weren't better at predicting the future. They were better at surviving the present. Jeff Bezos has talked about what he calls regret minimization. He imagines himself at 80 years old, looking back on the decisions he made, not the decisions that succeeded, the decisions he chose to make. And he asks, which ones would he regret not taking? This framing is more powerful than it sounds. It removes short-term noise. It removes the fear of looking foolish. It anchors decisions to a much longer horizon than a quarterly report. The founders who build lasting companies are not the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who refuse to let failure become final. Every great company was, at some point, a company that probably should have died. So what separates the survivors? Not intelligence, not resources, not even talent. It's the discipline to find real problems before building solutions. The honesty to watch cash like a hawk. The wisdom to build teams that last. The patience to let evidence guide the pivot. And the conviction to play a longer game than everyone else. There is no shortcut, but there is a way forward. If this hit home, subscribe, because we're just getting started.